Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make a curried cauliflower soup with some coconut milk, collard greens, carrots. I've got some orange cauliflower, onions, but a nice kind of veggie soup for this. And then we're going to make some delicious energy bites using some nuts, seeds, and some just different things, and peanut butter as our base for it. And then we're going to make a pastrami melt. So let's start by whipping up our soup. We're going to pour in a little bit of olive oil, and we'll get our burner going. And let's get our onion diced up and kind of get that sauteing for our soup for it. You know, my mom was like, oh, we're back in January. Got to kick off, start healthy. You know, everybody's, resolutions for the new year. And I'm like, well, I got this. We can do this. I always do it too. Kind of like put on there, say, what am I going to do for this year? And I'm like, hopefully eventually resolve this baby weight since baby number 3, since Evie. She's the one that got me. But hopefully get that off. So we're going to make a nice kind of healthy soup, and our little bites have been working out a lot recently. And kind of on my thing. And I'm also like process of cleaning my house and getting it all organized. You're like putting all the things that you want to achieve and do this year on there. So it's like thinking ahead for the future. We're talking about finally like getting to work on our cookbook and, putting all my recipes. I have all of these recipe cards, but sitting down and actually like putting it together to make a book and finalize it. So lots of things for 2026 that, I want to happen. I just got to remember that it's 2026 because I keep saying 2025 on everything. That's the first step, to remember 2026. Okay, we've got our onions kind of caramelizing up here for that. Let's prep up some of our veggies so we can kind of toss it in during our next, like the stages of this. And then we can start working on our things. It looks like I have a little bit of burn underneath my stove. I boiled over this morning making pasta for my son's lunch, and I did not clean it up very well. So it's just smoking. There we go. That's practical effects, guys. Let's see if that helps a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's get our carrots peeled. I've got 3 good old honky carrots. I'm doing kind of keeping in this nice kind of orangish color color theme because we're going to be using curry and turmeric, which will turn everything a nice kind of golden color. And then we'll have some collard greens, which will add in a nice pop of green. You could also use kale. But at the store, when I bought collard greens for our New Year's, they were like 2 for $4, these big bags. So I was like, you know what? Let's get the sale. So we're going to throw them in there. It'll stew up and they'll be great with this as well. Here we go. So let's get our little carrots prepped for this. And then we'll we'll mince up our garlic next, and then we'll cube up some of our cauliflower. And then we can work on our energy bites and then our sandwiches for it. Okay, so since these are pretty huge, I'm going to kind of quarter them. Actually, probably 6 them because they are so big. That way we have just smaller, more manageable pieces, and we can dice them up. Into nice pieces of carrots for our soup. That way we'll have great flavor to our kind of broth, which is going to be a coconut curry broth. We're going to use chicken bouillon and coconut milk as the base for it. And then, of course, we'll have curry powder and turmeric and some ginger in there as well. Here. I know I have actually a purple cauliflower in my refrigerator right now, and I thought about using the purple cauliflower, but the problem is when you use the purple cauliflower in the soup, it kind of changes your broth a funky color. So it makes it a little bit bluish, a bluish purple. And then if you mix that with the curry, then it would be like a brown in color. So I was like, yeah, you'd lose the prettiness of the purple. So we'll do something. I was like, we'll use our orange one here. And then I'll have to save that for another day. This. Nice little dice down. We've got our carrots all prepped up. We'll be ready to go in there once we get a nice kind of good caramelization on our onions. Give this a nice little stir here. Want to make sure they bring these kind of this nice flavor out. There we go. Okay. We're going to slide this right over. And then before we put our carrots in, I do want to put a little bit of garlic in. So we'll mince up our garlic. Just a couple of cloves. We'll kind of just enhance those nice flavors on there. I'm going to turn my pan down now that it's nice and hot to about a 5. And we'll let that onions kind of simmer. And we'll mince up our garlic. We're going to mince it fairly small. We're not going to puree this soup at all. We're going to keep it nice and like the vegetables will have the nice chunks in it. Although you could, if you were to leave out the collard greens, puree it, and you could have a creamy cauliflower and carrot bisque. But I want it to be more of a nice kind of velvety broth to it, but like a smoother one. Here. So let's give this a good mincy mince for this. Okay. Let's add in our garlic here. We'll give this a nice stir. Kind of coat this up. We'll let that saute for a minute here. And then we'll throw in our carrots and let those kind of cook up. While we're waiting for our carrot, our garlic to kind of cook up here, we can work a little bit on our little, pull this out. My cord's not as long as I thought it was. We can work on our little energy bites, which is kind of just a nut and seed with some dates in there, which will help sweeten it up. We'll use a little bit of honey in it. I used to make these all the time, and I really, really love them. Think kind of like a Lar bar or whatnot for them, but delicious. Now these are pitted, so they say they have their seeds out, but I always check because a couple of times you get a couple that still have their seed in them. We'll throw in about a handful of these. And this is going to add, a great fiber, but a nice sweetness to them because dates are really, really sweet for this. But we're also going to use a little bit of honey, and then our peanut butter will add some sweetness to this. Let's get, before we add our next thing, let's get our carrots in here now that our garlic has had a chance to kind of cook up here. Add in our garlic or our carrots. So these were our 3 good sized carrots that we diced up. We're going to let them saute here for a good minute or 2, probably 2 or 3 minutes actually. Let them kind of heat up, get a nice saute on them, and then we'll add in our cauliflower. Our cauliflower has a bit more water content in it, so I don't want to add those in for a little bit because they'll kind of wilt down and add a little bit of liquid for it. Okay, let's get our kind of some of our nut bases in here. So I've got some cashews, and I like to use a whole bunch of variety of nuts because they all have different kind of fat bases to them, and they all add different flavors. But we're going to add in just about a handful. This is probably like a 1/3 cup or so of cashews. Now you can do salted or unsalted, or you can do raw or roasted. I personally like salted and roasted because I like I like to eat my nuts too outside of that, and I don't like a raw, unsalted nut. But I also like the added salt into the flavor. I think they taste nice. I've got some peanuts. Peanuts are a great cheaper nut that are add a good filler to it. We're going to put in about, I want to say a cup or so of peanuts. We've got some pistachios. We'll do just a handful or so, about a third cup of pistachios. And then I've got some slivered almonds, which add a good lot of fiber, not a lot of fat, but they're a good bulky nut to add in. And then we'll do some pumpkin seeds. Again, a little bit of bulk to it, got a bit more dry. And then we're going to add in some peanut butter. Now with this, you're going to want to use a peanut butter that's like a healthy peanut butter, because the point of an energy bite is to be healthy. So you don't want to use, your good old my kids peanut butter. So I've got some this is just a nice crunchy, healthy, no sugar peanut butter. Don't have to worry about my kids stealing this peanut butter. We're going to put in about, I'm going to start with like a half a cup, but I might need more based on it. And then we're going to drizzle in some honey, which will add a nice little bit of sweetness to this as well as the dates. We'll start with a little bit, and then we can always add more. Let's give the little stir over here. Coat this up, and then we're going to add in some hemp seeds, chia seeds, and some wheat germ, which are all, add some things. These are all things that I just keep on hand because I like to add them to my smoothies, and I always just have them in the refrigerator. They don't add that much of a flavor to different things, but they're good. So this is like wheat germ. Actually, this is ground flaxseed. These are hemp seeds. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of each. And then chia seeds. And then we're going to pulse these all together until they kind of form a thicker paste base to them. Let's see if we need to add. We need probably add a little bit more peanut butter and then a little bit more honey, but we're getting kind of close there. I always wait to see, and once I'm chopping, what I need to add, because it just depends on how some nuts are a little bit more in fat than other ones, which means you don't need quite as much of your sticky base. Okay. Let's get a little spatula to push this down, or spoon. These are actually, back when I used to teach, and my assistant, my little co-teacher in my classroom, I used to make these for us all the time, and they were just so good. We used to say, this is what got us through the day. Okay. We'll do a couple little mixes, and then we're going to stir it around. You kind of push down here, but it's going to hold together, and then we'll roll these into a nice little ball. But I want to make sure I get everything to kind of mix together. I know right now my oldest daughter is into these gold bars, which are like a Tennessee. I guess they were created here in Tennessee. And so I bought them for him, and then I realized these things are expensive. And I'm like, I've got to figure out how I can make these homemade for her. So I'm kind of like researching what ingredients are in them because I'm like, I'm going to start making these homemade because I bet you I can make them for a fraction of the cost. And I bet you they taste better too. So it's my next kind of thing I want to accomplish on there. These are a lot of the same ingredients are in this than that are in there. So I'm going to have her try these and see if she likes them as well. There we go. We're getting good movement now. We'll let that sit for a second. And we will work. Let's get our next ingredients in our soup here. Let me give a nice little stir here. Before we chop up and add in our cauliflower, I want to get our curry and our turmeric and our ginger kind of heating up in here because it really will allow those flavors to come out. We're going to put in about a teaspoon of ginger paste. If you don't have ginger paste, you can use dried ginger. You're just going to want to use about a half a teaspoon. Dried ginger is a bit stronger. We're going to use about a teaspoon of turmeric. And then this is about 2 teaspoons of curry powder, and we're just going to use the rest of it, but about 2 teaspoons of curry powder. If your curry powder is older, like you haven't bought it recently, you might need to use more. Curry powder, I have found, is one of those spices that really dulls out over time. And then we're also adding a little bit of paprika, about a teaspoon. Let's mix this up. We're going to let that kind of hit and toast up on the bottom of our pan. That heat is really going to allow those spices to come out a little bit more. And then it will allow it to kind of really meld into the base of our broth when we add our liquid in. So let's get that kind of heat going. Push that down. We can get our cauliflower kind of chopped up here. Start by kind of taking all these little heads off. This again is, orange cauliflower or golden cauliflower. You can really use any color cauliflower, but me, when I see a cool colored cauliflower, I'm a sucker for it. It's just like the rainbow carrots. Anything that's a fun color. This summer I tried to grow purple bell peppers. None of mine turned purple. They were all green. And I think I was bamboozled. They said they were going to be purple, and not a single one turned out purple. And I waited and waited because, a lot of most, peppers, they start out green and then they go through the process of changing. Never, ever got to purple. Okay, we're going to chop these up because I don't want any really big pieces because, again, this is a soup. And you don't want to have any pieces that you can't, eat up on a spoon. So just chop nice little smaller pieces. You can definitely keep the stalks so you don't have to take them out.
You have a question? Do the different colored cauliflowers taste any different?
Nope. It is all for aesthetics. There is no taste difference in them at all. It's just to be pretty, which sometimes we need that in our life, and that's okay. It's really, there's no flavor difference to it. Or if there is, it's so minuscule that I don't taste a difference. Now, I haven't, to me, it just tastes like cauliflower. I have not lined all three up and done a very discerning taste between them all. But close my eyes, I would just say cauliflower, plain cauliflower every single day. Put our cauliflower in here. There we go. Take that little piece off. And then we're going to give this a good saute up. And then we'll add in our chicken, or we'll add in water with our chicken bouillon, and we'll let that simmer. And we'll put our collard greens in here. We'll give them a good little chop up first. And then towards the end, we'll add in some coconut milk, which will add a nice kind of creaminess to this, which will just, the coconut and the curry just work really well together. Now, if you don't have coconut milk, you could always use a little bit of cream, or you could just skip it all together because it's still lovely even without the creamy touch of it. Okay. We're gonna let that cauliflower get just, a minute or two on that saute. Let's get a couple more pulses of this. Let's see how they're ready. Looking pretty good. Yep, we've got our kind of sticky base here. You see where we can kind of squeeze and form it together to form a ball. So we're looking good. We're going to stir in some chocolate chips for a couple of these. I'm going to just give it one more stir around, and then we'll mix it up because I wanted to put some of these a little bit smaller. And then we're going to, before we start shaping these up into balls, we are going to work on our pastrami sandwich so we can get it toasting up on there. But we've got to mix this around just a little bit, give it a little bit of help turning it, because a lot of that stuff on the bottom is a little bit finer, and I made a kind of a bigger batch here. There we go. Now you don't want to blend these until they're too creamy. You want a little bit of that coarse texture because you like that, that nice little seed in them. Just makes them delicious. Gives you that nice kind of the textureness to it. Okay. Let's slide this over. Let me get a little stir on this, and then we can let's get our broth in here, and then we'll get our sandwich going because it looks pretty good as I throw a carrot at the cameraman. Okay, we're going to start. I've got 4 cups here, but I'm not sure I'm going to use it all. I just want to go until I've got the cauliflower covered because I am going to add in a whole can of coconut milk. So we're going to stir in 1 cup, and then we're going to mix around. Make sure you scrape all the way around because you want to get off all of those spices off the bottom of your pan. And just kind of coat up, and then we can add in some more. Then little by little. There. I think we'll actually end up using all of it. Perfect. Excellent. So I've got enough really where it kind of just covered up our cauliflower. Beautiful. Let's add in a nice scoop of chicken bouillon. I'm going to use up the rest of this because there's very little, and then we'll use up a little bit of another one. You can also use vegetable bouillon. Both work well for this. I had chicken already open, so we're going to use that. If I can open it.
I have a question. Why coconut milk?
Coconut milk works really well with the curry. The coconut and the curry really complement each other well. And it works really well with the cauliflower as well. So it just complements it. You don't have to use it. You could use a splash of cream to have it, or you could keep it plain. But it adds a nice creaminess to the soup, which gives you just a little bit more richness for it, without adding also like a whole bunch of calories and stuff to it, because you're not using like a heavy cream for it. So it just works really, really nice. We've got in our things. May do a little splash more of it, and then we'll let that simmer. Let me get my collard greens in there so that they can start to simmer.
And what kind of chicken bouillon?
Just this better than bouillon. It's just oven roasted chicken bouillon. I like it over chicken broth because it has a bit more flavor, and I don't need to add any extra salt. Where chicken broth, I find you need to add a bit more salt. Okay, I've got some collard greens here left over from I want to keep wanting to say 4th of July, not 4th of July, but from the 1st. And we're going to chop these up and add them in. I don't even know if I need all of these, but these will stew up and they will be great in here as well. Add a bit of greens to our soup. You could use kale as well or spinach. If you're going to do spinach, just wait until the very end to add your spinach because otherwise it will just wilt away too quickly. You know what? I think we are good. We'll just throw these last little bits in. And then we'll give this a good stir and we're going to let that simmer. And then once we get done with the final simmering, we'll add in our coconut milk. But while this is simmering, we'll make our sandwich, our pastrami on our homemade sourdough bread, and we'll roll out our energy bites and kind of finish up with everything. But we're just going to push all of this underneath. Here we go. Perfect. We'll let this simmer. So I'm going to turn this up nice and high and let it kind of come together. So for our sandwich, I've got some pastrami. I like to make my pastrami with either you can use sauerkraut or a little bit of pickles. Something a little bit sour with the pastrami works well.
A question for the soup. Will the cauliflower be soft or crunchy?
It will be soft in the sense that you'll cook it now. Depending on how long you cook it, you can go to where if you overcook it, it can get to be more mushy. I like to cook it to where it still has a little bit of form, but it's not hard. So it's not mushy, but it's not hard on there. So we're going to make our sandwiches here. I've got my sourdough bread from the other day. So we're going to slice this up and use this up because then I will be ready to bake up some more sourdough. Tonight I have some proofing in my fridge and ready to bake up. Here. And I think we can get 2 big sandwiches out of it, which will make 4 of them for it. But again, this is our nice homemade sourdough bread. This is just our basic traditional recipe, which is delicious. So easy to make. I mean, uses all it is starter, flour, water, salt. So it's like 3 ingredients. So simple.
Do you have a plan for dinner yet?
I am not 100% sure. I'm still thinking that through. I've got to figure out my kids' sports schedule tonight. It's hard. You get back from the break and you're like, oh, I forgot everything starts up today. So I'm not 100% sure yet. I do know I'm going to bake up a sourdough loaf. So that is one thing I know I'm going to do, but I haven't decided yet. And right now I just have too many options because I went grocery shopping today. So many options. And I could always throw salmon on the table because I did buy salmon. I just always like to say that to tease my husband because you know how much he loves salmon. But I'm not sure. Something delicious. Okay, let's get a little bit of butter on each side.
Well, what kind of pot do you use for your sourdough in the oven?
I bake mine up. I have 2 Le Creuset pots that I've kind of designated for it because once you bake it up at the high temperatures, it kind of stains them a little. So I have 2 of those that I use to bake it up in there because I'm all about using what I have, and I have a ridiculous number of Le Creuset pots that I've been gifted from my mom over the years. And so I use those to bake it up. I have an oval one for my loaf pans. And then I have that's like a round one for my like bowls. And then I have some little ones for that. But that's what I use to bake it up. I don't feel like you need anything special. I kind of do the simple. You bake it with the lid on for 20 minutes at 500, and then you take the lid off and you bake for 450 for 20 minutes. And they turn out pretty great every single time. As long as you also have to preheat your Dutch oven up so it's nice and toasty when you put your loaf in. Okay, we're going to put some, this is Gouda cheese on here, which is a nice kind of creamy, smooth cheese that doesn't have a lot of, some more mild cheese on there. It's a semi-soft, which works really well with pastrami, which has It's a bit more like a spiced meat, so it has a bit more flavor. Not quite as strong or as corned beef, but I think it has more spice than thing, but not as salty as corned beef. We're gonna add on here. We'll add a couple slices of our pastrami. Here. We'll do 3.5 slices for each one. And then we're gonna get our pickles out and we're gonna do a couple slices of pickles. Let me first, before I try to open that, let me give this a stir. We'll turn it down just a smidge now that we've got a good strong boil on it. Beautiful. There we go. Now we gotta open the jar of pickles. My Evie's been asking me to open this jar for a while, and I was like, not yet, because as soon as I open a jar of pickles, these will be gone in no time because Evie's a pickle addict. And she
You have a question? What is pastrami?
Pastrami is like a seasoned beef. So it's kind of similar to corned beef, but it has more spices in it. So it has very similar flavors, but with spice. I don't know how else to say it. Kind of like a slightly sweetened spice to it. But really delicious. I love to pair it with something a little bit sour, like sauerkraut or pickles. I think it, or pickled onions too. They really bring out the flavors, and it works really well for it. Here we go. So we've got our pickles on here, and we'll add a little bit more cheese on top, kind of sandwich in our little melt here. There we go. And then we'll add our, oops, dropped it.
And what kind of cheese?
This is Gouda, which is again like a semi-soft, so not as hard as like a cheddar, which means it's going to melt really well. And it's more of a mild in flavor, which pairs really well with a soup that has got a really strong flavor, or not a soup, a meat like pastrami that has a strong flavor. So anytime I use like a hard salami or corned beef or something like that, I want to use a more mild cheese that's not going to fight with those flavors. Okay, let's get this over here. Let me wash my hands. And let's shape up some of these energy bites since they are ready. And then we'll add our coconut milk into our soup. That's just about ready for that. Okay. So I take up and I try to do like a ping pong ball size or gumball size. That's not a ping pong ball, but a small bite size things, that way, because you got to think they are made of nuts and seeds for it. So you can have a snack, but then you can have a couple if you want it as like a meal replacement. You could have like 3 for it to make up like a bar. But these are just so good to snack on. And they taste just so delicious. They have, again, dates, honey, peanut butter, peanuts, almonds, cashews, pumpkin seeds, and chia seeds, and hemp seeds, and flax seeds. Got everything in here. So they're just full of a lot of things. And then, the sweeteners are both just honey and dates. And so they're just like your little, natural energy bite thing. And you just kind of pulse them here to kind of hold them together. And I keep them in the fridge because I like them cold, but they also hold together really well at room temperature, as you can see. I just think they taste better. I don't know why, but I like them cold. Here we go. If you wanted to, you can add in some chocolate chips or mini chocolate chips to add a little extra sweetness, but I think they're already pretty sweet as they are with the dates and the honey. And of course, the peanut butter. But so delicious. And it's great, for the new year, for anyone who else is trying to start off the new year with some of your healthier, resolutions. My goal for this year, I hope to lose the rest of the baby weight that I gained, and to just continue working out. I've been working out pretty decently not every single day, but 5 days a week since August? No, yeah, since August last year. So I've been working out fairly well on there. We kind of changed it up over winter break. We added in some Billy Blank's Taebo workouts. Whew, those are a lot harder than I remembered them doing. I remember doing them in like the early 2000s. We had the little cassette tapes. Yeah, cassette tapes back in. Before they were even DVDs, we had the cassette tapes. And the VHS. There we go. Not even a VHS tape, but we had those on there, and I was like, "Ooh, they're hard." But we're doing those. I'd always sit there and I'm like looking at them, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I had those pants. I had those workout clothes. That is an outfit. We used to wear those. Those look crazy." How fashion has changed. Okay, let me wash my hands. We'll take a mini break from rolling our little energy bites here. To finish up, let's see if our grilled cheeses here, our little pastrami melts, let's see if they need a little flip. Not yet. Warming them up here. I'll turn it up just a smidge. Give our soup a nice stir. Look at that. I'm going to get a spoon and we're going to taste the broth, see if we need to add anything else. You want it to be slightly stronger because we're going to be adding in that coconut milk, which will kind of mellow out the flavor. So you want it to be a little bit stronger now than your final product. Perfect. So I've got just 1 can of coconut milk. Give it a good shake. And I like to use the canned coconut milk over like the fresh coconut milk in your fridge because I think this tastes better when you're cooking with it. But you need to make sure you have a good shake on it. And don't use the coconut cream because that's really, really thick and sweet. So we're going to pour in our coconut milk. There we go. We'll mix it up. We'll let it heat up in there. And that will add a nice kind of slightly sweetened flavor to it, but it won't be too strong, but it will just kind of enhance that curry flavor. Just kind of really works well with it. Let's see. Delicious. Okay, let that simmer for just a second. And let's flip our pastrami melts here. Beautiful. Get them flipped over. Have them toasting up on here and finish up our little bites here.
What's the name of the soup you're making?
So it is a curried coconut or curried cauliflower soup with some coconut milk in there. We've got carrots and some collard greens in it, but just a nice kind of vegetable soup that just is nice, hearty, but also not super heavy. But you've got that kind of feel like you're eating something rich, but it's not super heavy with that coconut milk in there. Let's slide these over. Look at that. We've got so many of these little bites here. My mom loves these little bites, so she'll be excited for it because she's wanting to start the new year off as well.
Yale has a question for you.
What's for dinner tonight? I don't know yet what's for dinner tonight. I'm still planning and thinking through. I do know I'll bake up a sourdough loaf, but I have no idea.
No salmon.
No, I do have salmon. We'll see. We'll see if he tests me, then we'll have salmon tonight. But so I'm not sure yet. Too many options right now, but I had to think through it. But I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. Eventually, I'll figure it out. Like 10 minutes before, I'll go through and I'm like, this is what we're gonna have. Let me see if it was up to my 14-year-old son, he would be like fried chicken. If it was up to my 10-year-old daughter, she would say spaghetti and meatballs because she asked for that all the time. If it was up to my oldest daughter, she would be like steak or salmon or scallops. She's got very bougie taste, as you can tell on it. But it's not up to them. It's up to me, which is the bonus of being the chef. You get to decide what's for dinner. And I always take people's suggestions into consideration, but I hold all the power. That's why I say, if you're nice to the chef. What is it from Chicago, the musical? If you're good to mama, mama's good to you. Okay, it looks like we are just about ready to serve up here. Okay, let me clear this out of the way. And piece of cauliflower there. Okay, let's grab a little plate, a little bowl. And I realized I need another cutting board because my sandwiches need to be cut. We'll turn this off. Let me grab a ladle because I can't scoop it out with this spoon. And knife. Okay. Looking good. I'll slide one over. Okay. For lunch today, we have our curried cauliflower soup with coconut milk and collard greens and carrots, lots of C's today. We added turmeric and ginger, so it has this just nice, really fragrant broth in there, but with a lovely kind of creamy texture from the coconut milk. And we're going to serve it with our pastrami and on our homemade sourdough bread with Gouda and some sliced pickles in there. And then for a nice little sweet treat at the very end, we have our little seed and nut bites made with peanut butter, almonds, cashews, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, honey, and dates for just a nice little punch of protein and fiber. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page and search for what we made. So we've got our coconut curry soup and our pastrami and our little energy bites here. And you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my pans, my knives, my Dutch ovens, my food processor, all the different things that I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.